there, my name is Ariana and I write at the blog, and here we are. Today I want to talk to you about breakfast. Now, breakfast is my favorite meal of the day, but it can be such a frustrating thing to me sometimes during the week when I don't have time to make a leisurely breakfast for my family. In the morning we have so much going on. We're trying to get our kids fed, getting ourselves together, getting our husbands out the door, and I really do want a good breakfast for everyone, but it can be really challenging because you don't have all that time. So my favorite solution to this issue is to go ahead and make breakfast sausage patties when I do have the time to cook. I can freeze them, and then when it's time to eat, we can just pop them in the oven or cook them up in a skillet, and really there's not that much to do. You can make some scrambled eggs on the side, you can cut up some fruit, you can make some toast, whatever you want to do, but once you've got those breakfast sausages going, you know that everybody's getting great protein and you can feel really good about how you're feeding your family, and it really doesn't take that much time. In fact, even cooking them only takes about 20 minutes. So I am going to show you how I make my favorite breakfast sausages, which have bacon, apples, and leeks in them. They are so delicious and I know you guys will love them. Okay, let's go over the ingredients that you'll need. You will need 2 pounds of ground pork, 4 or 5 pieces of bacon. I like smoked bacon. And if you click on the recipe and check it out, you will see that I sometimes like to cook the bacon a little bit first to just kind of get rid of some of that moisture and fat. It just makes the sausage texture a little bit better, but I've made it both ways and they're both great. So if you don't have the time for that, don't worry about it. The sausages will still be awesome. Okay, so you will need about 3/4 cups of leeks, and you want to cut only the white and light green parts. This looks like a lot more, but it's not really because the rings have all kind of slipped out of each other and sort of puffed up over the bowl. So that's 3/4 cups leeks. An apple, we're going to core and quarter that. If it is organic, you can leave the skin on, otherwise peel it. About 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. 1 tablespoon of molasses. You can also use honey for this or maple syrup. Fresh sage, about 2 tablespoons. Sometimes I go a little more on that because I love fresh herbs. A tablespoon of fresh rosemary. 1 to 2 teaspoons salt depending on your tastes. 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves and a dash of cayenne pepper. So that is all you will need to make these awesome breakfast sausages. Okay, let's make these patties. It's going to go by quickly, so pay attention. Alright, 2 steps to the blender part, the food processor part. Put everything but the meat in, okay? And then you're going to put the meat in at the very end. So let's go ahead, get those leeks, apples, a couple of tablespoons of lemon juice. I'm just going to pluck the leaves, but I don't need to chop them up too much. I've pulled the rosemary off of the stem. Let's get that molasses in there. Use an apple to scoop it out of the spoon. It's sticky. Some salt. The cloves and cayenne pepper. I like my breakfast sausage really peppery, so you'll have to bear with me for a minute while I grind this pepper. So you want about 1/2 teaspoon of that. Okay, and then the bacon. Go ahead and pop that on in there. Okay, so I'm going to put the lid on, and the next part is just blending it until it's all really finely chopped. Okay, and you could even do this first and then not even have to use a blender to mix in the pork, but this is the important part, that you're getting everything really finely mixed. Alright, so let's do that. Okay, so I went ahead and I blended it. It took about a minute, and I scraped down the sides once or twice, and you can see that everything is pretty finely chopped up, nice and even and wet. So now we are ready to put the pork in, and really, like I said, You could just add this to a larger bowl with the pork and mix it by hand, but having a food processor makes it quicker, so I'm going to go ahead and add the pork to the bowl and give it just a couple pulses till it looks like it's blending. I don't want to chop it up too fine because that makes the patty a little bit grainy. Okay, so I'm going to go do that and then I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so I went ahead and added the pork to the mix bowl and I blitzed it just a couple of seconds, maybe 5 seconds. And I might need to mix it up just a little bit with my hand as I form it into sausage patties because you really don't want to overdo it in the food processor once you put the meat in because it will make it really crumbly and that's no good. So you want it to stick together. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and make some sausage patties. So just kind of work them into your hands. And set them on the tray. Now what we're going to do is called flash freezing, where we put them in the freezer kind of bare like this until they're frozen, and then you can take them off of the tray and put them into a glass container or a Ziploc bag or what have you, so that they won't be stuck together. They'll be individually frozen. All right, so I'll come back once I finish making the patties. Okay, so I went ahead and formed them into patties, made 22 patties. Most of these I'm going to stick in the freezer overnight to freeze. In the morning I will pop them off of the tray and put them away in some Ziploc bags or a glass container. And I usually do leave some out for us to enjoy fresh the next morning. So I'm going to go ahead and cook these up. So you can do this in a skillet over some pretty good heat. And keep in mind there is fat in here, so you don't need a ton of grease. I'm going to use bacon grease. You could use butter or ghee or whatever cooking fat you like the most. So just let that oil get hot. And once it's in the pan, nicely spread, you're going to go ahead and pop your sausages in. Now these cook fairly quickly. You're just going to want about 4 minutes on each side. So after 4 minutes, go ahead and flip them over. You want them to be nice and golden on the outside. Okay, so while these sausages are cooking, let's talk a minute about how to cook these ones. Let's pretend they're frozen for a minute. So you have a couple of options. You can defrost the ones you want overnight so that you can cook them up in 8 minutes on the skillet the next morning. Or you could take them completely frozen and put them in a 350-degree oven and cook them for 15 to 20 minutes. Just kind of see how it goes. I like to put them in the oven that has a broiler on it, so it gets a little bit, I don't know, it's a little crispier on the outside than cooking them at a lower, less direct heat. So 350 for about 15 to 20 minutes. You do want to flip them partway through, and they are fantastic. And I also wanted to say that this is an amazing way to do brunch really easily, because you can pre-make all of these, pop the whole thing in the oven, and have all of these breakfast sausages already cooked and ready to go. Okay, so that is what you're going to do with the frozen ones. Okay, got it all cooked up. See that it's nice and lightly browned. So now it's time to try it. These are super juicy and moist from the leeks and the apples inside. They're a little bit salty, and then the sweetness from the apples and the molasses comes out really nicely. Your family is going to be very happy with these in the morning.